everybody. Welcome to Hot for Teacher. This is episode number 43, right up there. That's how you can tell what episode it is. We've done 42 episodes of this. That makes this episode number 43, which must mean that I'm Adam Coble and that this is Hot for Teacher. So welcome. Today, like the last 42 episodes, we're going to answer 3 questions, discuss 3 topics, and talk about relationships and feelings and friendship and work and gender and sexuality. And we're just going to spend the next hour or so hanging out and chatting about that stuff because honestly, even if this wasn't a show about reminding people that it's okay to be who they are or offering thoughts and advice to people who are having trouble with stuff, it's just nice to have a period of time, a couple of times a month, that we can dedicate to just sitting around and talking with each other, me to you or you to each other, about those topics, right? Like, I think that we think about them a lot, and God knows that I tweet about them fairly often, but I think it's nice to just like use the words and to hang out and to discuss these things because there's something different about saying a thing out loud. So I hope that you have been finding Hot for Teacher entertaining and interesting and maybe helpful. Reassuring would be another cool thing for it to be. And if you're sitting there and you're like, but Adam, none of these 3 questions are my question. None of these 3 topics are the topic I would like to have discussed. Well, it's okay because you can submit your own questions, your own thoughts, you, my lovely audience, by going to www.adam-coble.com, clicking the Hot for Teacher link, and filling out the form. That is, if you can drag yourself away from, I don't know, Final Fantasy 14. If you can, thank you. I'm proud of you. You did it. Fill out that form, submit your question, and we'll talk about these things on a future episode. But today's episode, I've already got my questions. I'm ready to go. So we're going to start with a question from Which. Not a witch, just Which. They have a question about imbalance in relationships. And I'm really excited to talk about this one. I'm really excited about it because, you know, a lot of the time folks will submit questions that are things that, you know, I've had some experience with, or I have some theoretical experience or an understanding about. And, you know, talking about it is as much a process of kind of figuring it out myself as it is helping with a specific thing. But then every once in a while, like this first question that Which submitted, I have some like personal thoughts and feelings about it. And so I get to kind of turn to my own life, my own experiences to talk about. So this one's a personal one for me. So thank you, Which, for submitting it. Let's read the question and get to the answer. So Which asks, Adam, how do you form and navigate healthy romantic relationships where one person is asexual and the other isn't? Or a sexual relationship where one person is aromantic and the other isn't? Particularly if one person prefers monogamy and the other some form of non-monogamy. Now, I think that this kind of thing we tend to, and by we I mean sort of the queer community, which is people who identify themselves as queer, but also, you know, you see this same stuff coming up in the kink community, or you see it in non-monogamy circles. There are a lot of things that we think about when it comes to relationships, especially if we are not heteronormative or not allosexual or aromantic, whatever. We've identified ourselves as somewhere outside of the presumed norm, quote unquote. I think we think about this stuff. We get curious about it. We run into it personally because there is so much forethought and insight that we have to put into our own lives. Then, of course, we start thinking about relationships and how we might, you know, make those fit. But the funny thing is that everybody should be thinking about this, and they should be thinking about it not just within the context of asexual or allosexual. We shouldn't think about it in terms just of aromantic or romantic, monogamous, non-monogamous. Like, I think that we create all of these kind of internal imagined binaries within a relationship, but like all relationships are about finding the things you have in common and being satisfied, at least in some part, by the relationship that you are having with a person, right? Like, for example, if we want to take a non-romantic, non-sexual look at this, let's say I really like Magic the Gathering, right? Let's hypothetically say that I enjoy playing Magic, right? Now, it's a hobby I like. I like collecting the cards. I like theory crafting new decks. I like playing in tournaments. And I have a person in my life that I really care about. Maybe they're a close friend, a romantic partner, whatever. And I want to share my hobby of Magic the Gathering with that person. Now, I can go to them and I can say, hey, person, would you like to play Magic the Gathering with me? I love it so much, and it would be so fun to get to share it with you. And maybe they say, yeah, cool. Let's play Magic the Gathering. You can teach it to me and we can play it together. Now I get to have the fun experience of teaching it. They get to learn a new thing. We get to become closer because of this shared experience. And I think most people consider that the ideal, right? Your stuff is a circle. My stuff is also a circle. Most people are drawn to relationships where the two circles overlap as much as possible. This is a normal expectation. Again, normal, which is say normative, expectation of a relationship. You just overlap your circles as hard as you can until there's nothing else outside of those circles. That's a very normally enforced type of relationship. And we tend to not get that. What tends to happen is, hey, partner, friend, buddy, pal, I have this thing I love. It's called Magic the Gathering. Would you like to try it with me? And they say, that seems like it's for dweebs. I'm going to go over here and lift this truck over my head. And you say, okay, that's disappointing. I'm not really interested in watching you lift a truck over your head. I'm going to go play Magic the Gathering with my other Magic the Gathering friends. Now, okay, great. There you go. That's fine too, right? Maybe it's disappointing. Maybe you wish that somebody else would be interested in playing Magic the Gathering. Maybe you're envious that you can't lift a car over your head and you know, you're sad and you don't want to take part in that. But really, the overlap of hobbies tends not to be enforced, right? We don't see a lot of that as compared to some of the more serious stuff. Like, I don't know, fucking, for example. So what I think we should do, and kind of what I'm getting around to in my own slow way for Witch's question, is we need to think about things like romance, like sex, like the kinds of things we do in relationships, whether they're Magic the Gathering or they're more traditionally things taken seriously. We have to recognize that a relationship is just the overlap and that the overlap can take whatever size we want it to, right? It can be a lot of things or it can just be a couple of things. For example, right? For example, a relationship in which two people have nothing in common except that they like to have sex with each other, and they do so with consent in mind. They do so healthily. They're doing it in a kind and considerate way. That relationship is just as healthy, and in fact, probably more likely to be healthy than a relationship that involves 46 different things that your life is all overlapped on top of one another, right? I think the first thing we can do is recognize that relationships do not have to be 100% of everybody's stuff altogether, right? That can be tough in practice, especially because there are some things that are kind of part and parcel assumed to be an aspect of monogamy. So, for example, if you are a person who considers yourself to be monogamous, which is to say you want to engage in one main romantic and sexual relationship, and you want to have your partner engage only in that as well, right? So that the only person you're having sex with and being romantic with is your partner, and same for them. But what if that person is asexual? You now are in a position where you're like, I want to have sex, but I only want to have sex with you, and you maybe don't have sex with anyone, me included. So now we start to see where these uncomfortable tensions form, because while I could just go play Magic the Gathering with someone else while you lift a truck over your head, monogamy introduces this situation where now you're not allowed to lift a truck over your head unless I'm watching you do it. The way that in my life I have solved this problem, because I am, so here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. So I am an aromantic person. The way my aromanticism, the way that feels for me is that I just don't feel romantic feelings towards people. I can generate emotional closeness. I have close friends. I can feel what to me feels like love, but I don't know. Romance confuses me. It's not, my brain doesn't click those things together. I'm also non-monogamous. I don't require that the people that I'm close to exclusively have romantic or sexual relationships with me. Now, does that mean that the only people I have ever had relationships with are also aromantic and non-monogamous? Fuck no. No, of course not, because that's very, very difficult to do, right? So what I think you have to do, and what would be the best approach, so certainly not the easiest, is to build your relationships with every person in your life, not as if you are choosing a preset character, but that you are building that character together, right? That you are choosing what things from each of your circles to overlap, right? And for each relationship, a solution, and I'm putting that in quotes because I don't think that not wanting to have sex or not feeling romantic feelings or whatever, I don't consider asexuality and aromanticism and non-monogamy. I don't think those are negatives. I don't think they're problems to solve. They're just the way that people do relationships. And so you have to work with someone to figure that out. So if you're in a relationship with somebody and it's romantic and it's intimate and you want to have sex with them and they don't want to have sex with you, ostensibly, you figure a way around that, right? Maybe you have sex with other people or an other person. Maybe you don't, right? Maybe you just take a break, right? Maybe you're celibate while you're in this relationship. It's tough, because I think that as queer people, we have to do all this extra work because the assumptions that are put in front of us about how relationships work, they don't apply to us anymore. And so we got to put the work in, and yeah, it's tiring, and yeah, it's frustrating, and yeah, it can be really difficult. And what's the alternative? Like what else do we do? So as with so much, it requires fundamental conversations about what you need to be happy. And I gotta say, as daunting as it feels going into a conversation like that, as hard as it can be sitting down with someone and saying, listen, I don't want to have sex with you, that can be scary because maybe then they're going to withdraw all of their intimacy. Maybe they don't want to be friends with you anymore. Maybe they get very upset about that and they have a mental breakdown. There's all kinds of things that an anxious mind can create in terms of what might happen when a difficult conversation occurs. But if you can get over that fear, if you can have that relationship conversation with somebody, there is very little, in my experience, very little more satisfying than getting to talk about the things that you need to someone that you care about and who cares about you, and feeling like they're actually listening and that the words that you are saying are changing how they think or feel, right? Even if it just means that they see you more clearly. Being seen is so important, especially to queer folks. So the real and sort of cop-out non-answer to this question which is asking is like, talk about it. Talk about it with this person. Know what you are willing to compromise on, but don't make it everything, right? Too often, I think we prioritize being in a relationship or having a relationship. We prioritize those over being happy or being comfortable or being who we are. And I'm not saying that from a perspective of like, I did it already. It's done for me. This is a lifelong process, right? Every relationship changes. We have new relationships all the time. And that work just needs to get done all the time, right? Constantly. It's like coming out. You have to do it always. So I think being honest with yourself is the first step, right? Getting an understanding of the things that you need and what makes you happy and what makes you comfortable, right? Because if you don't know that about yourself, how are you going to communicate it to anybody else, right? So there are lots of ways to do that, right? Self-reflect, meditation is a nice thing to help get your mind clear of some clutter. Journaling, I have found to be really helpful from time to time. If you can access it, and if it feels safe and comfortable for you, counseling or therapy can be useful to talk these things out. But getting a clear understanding of your own needs, your own identity, what makes you happy, can then give you a platform from which to express that to somebody else, right? Figure out the things that you're comfortable talking about from the get-go, right? Do you put asexual in your dating profile, or do you wait until you've talked to somebody a couple of times before you're comfortable expressing that? Do you come out the gate saying, I'm non-monogamous, I'm already in a bunch of relationships, or do you meet somebody neutrally and then warm up to telling them that, right? Find your communication approach and then apply it to both your existing and your new relationships. Now, each relationship is going to have its own solutions to these problems, right? Where, like, for me, I might say to somebody, I'm aromantic, and I'm going to put that right up front, right when I first meet them, so that they know that they're not going to get romance from me, that I'm not going to, without like active practice and work, I'm not going to be able to just express those feelings, right? And that I don't receive romantic, energy or behaviors. I don't get those. They're not going to make me feel good. So being able to clear that stuff up early is, for me, important, but it might not be for someone else, right? The monogamy or non-monogamy thing doesn't really come into it unless the relationship becomes one where that person starts to think about maybe dating me or engaging me in some kind of romantic or sexual relationship, right? It's irrelevant until it's relevant, and you get to decide where that line is drawn, right? And I think that these conversations can be, like I said, both exhausting and empowering, because, having to explain to somebody what non-hierarchical, non-monogamy looks like, right? Or how being aromantic feels, that can be tiring sometimes. But I think sometimes too, it's just nice to express it. It's nice to be able to talk about it, especially with people that you trust or that care about you. So you'll find your approach. You'll find your way of talking about this the more you do it, right? So really, if we cut away everything about asexuality or monogamy or anything in this question, the real question is here, how do we form and navigate healthy relationships? And the answer to that question always starts with communication, right? Communicating with ourselves, communicating with others, constantly updating that communication and letting people around you know what you need to be happy and how you can make the relationship work better, because nothing is static about a relationship, and what your asexuality feels like today might be different in a week or 2 weeks, right? And everybody's communication style is different. Maybe you're going to feel more comfortable writing emails. Maybe you're going to feel more comfortable having phone conversations or text messages. Maybe face-to-face is what does it for you. That's part of it, divining your own communication style. So I think just being clear with yourself about who you are and what you need, and then being clear with other people about how that interaction works with them and with you is the basis for basically all of it, right? But don't imagine that you're going to get it perfect the first try, right? Give yourself room to stumble. Give yourself room to change. Give yourself room not to know or have answers to things. And as always, never make the conversation just about, here's what I need, here's what you need to do. The conversation is over, right? Active listening, paying attention, giving people the opportunity to better understand themselves through the synthesis, right? The dialectic of the two of you having a conversation, because you never know, right? You never know when you sit down with somebody. And this is literally what happened to me. I was having a conversation with somebody and I was saying to them, I have a really hard time in traditional relationships, even non-monogamous ones, because I forget birthdays, I forget anniversaries. It doesn't occur to me to buy people cards and flowers. I'm very attentive and thoughtful, and I care about my friends, but there is a subset of like romantic behaviors that I just don't, and I'm struggling, right? I was expressing this to my friend. I was like, I can't understand why I keep upsetting these people. Like, why do I have this blank spot in my brain that everybody else seems to fill with flowers and holiday cards and chocolates and shit? And they said to me, hey, dummy, you might be aromantic. Do some reading. And I did. And I was like, oh shit. This is me. Like this thing is me. And I think those revelations, they're hard to come by. They're even harder to seek out, but being open to them, right? Talking with other people about your experience, sharing that stuff with a peer group can lead you to those revelations, right? They can lead you to those places where you're like, wait a second, I'm not broken. This is a valid way to be. And then once you have that confidence of understanding your own feelings, your own needs, that confidence will drive you forward into those conversations with people that you care about. So yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately this is a sort of exposing yourself. There's got to be a better way to say that. Becoming familiar with the experiences of other people who are different from you can be very good for you. If you're going to expose yourself to people, make sure that they're into it and that you have consent first. Don't expose yourself to people that... Anyway, whether it's monogamy or non-monogamy, whether it's asexuality or allosexuality, whatever makes up the beautiful landscape of your reality, being able to understand it, being flexible with yourself, and being able to share that with other people, and then work with them to come up with a situation that is beneficial and happy and good for both of you. And I guess when it really comes down to it, and I hate to end on this note, but I kind of have to, you may run into situations where you are incompatible with a person. So like, for example, I might say to somebody, hi, my name's Adam. I am a relationship anarchist, which means I don't treat friendships or coworkers or romantic relationships or sexual relationships. I don't treat them as inherently different from one another, which means you and I can get to know each other. We could become friends. We could become more than that or less than that, or we could work on a project together, but I'm not going to prioritize any of my relationships based on their content. So you've got a chance to become very, very important to me or not, as makes sense for both of us. I am a romantic and I don't respond to romantic energy. That's not a thing I'm interested in relationships. And they might say to me, oh, that's interesting. I am a deeply hierarchical, monogamous person. I am alloromantic. I'm allosexual. I need those things in my relationships to be happy. And I might say to that person, okay, well, so that means we probably shouldn't ever get intimate in an emotional sense, because I don't want you to have to deal with, emotional cheating. I don't want you to feel like you're drunk. So let's just go out for lunch every once in a while and we'll hang out and be friends. That's a safe, comfortable relationship for us. It doesn't butt up against anybody's needs. We have excised a thing. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to recognize, like, listen, I am asexual. And for me, that means I don't ever want to have sex with anybody. And you are a very sexual person. And you're also monogamous. And I'm monogamous. And you can't have sex with anybody else. This is not going to work. Let's change this relationship. And sometimes you have to change the relationship into nothing. And that's a shame when you get there. But I don't think there's such a thing as a failed relationship. I think there's just relationships that have more or less intensity. There are relationships that are good for you to be in or not good to be in. But I think even a relationship where you acknowledge, maybe especially a relationship where you acknowledge this isn't working, let's do something else. And maybe that something else is nothing. I think that's something to be proud of. And I think that you can learn a lot from deciding that a relationship just isn't what it should be. And what it should be is nothing. And that's okay. Because there are billions of people on Earth. You're not even going to meet most of them. So your options are pretty wide, right? So yeah, talk about things. Be true to yourself, know who you are and what you need, and then find ways to express that, right? And you can get lots of practice with people you love and trust, right? Like I know a few people where if I said to them, hey, this is going to seem weird, can I call you and can we talk about our relationship? Not in any serious way, but I just need practice talking about my needs. Can I use you and I as let me practice on you. I can think of at least 3 or 4 people that I could say that to, and they would be like, hell yeah, let's have a practice relationship talk. I know it seems silly. I know it feels like you should be able to do this already because you're a grown up or whatever, but fuck all that. Fuck that. Practice is good for you. And we can always get better at talking about these things. Always, right? So practice. Find cool people you trust and talk to them. Speaking of cool, trustworthy people, Krobosaur asked me a question, and I'm very excited to answer her. Kroby asks, I suffer from anxiety and ADHD and other mental health issues, and while it's taken me a long time to come up with ways to manage it, I still struggle at times. That's okay. Everybody does. It's taken a long time for me to realize I should seek professional help with these things, to much improvement to my mental health overall in the long term. So I'm pausing. I'm going to pause right here. We're pausing. I'm putting a pin in this question for a second because I want to congratulate. I don't know. Congratulate doesn't feel like the right word. Let's just take a minute to celebrate Krobosaur. Kroby, this is for you. A totally non-ironic clapping of the hands. You recognized that you had some problems. You were dealing with some struggles. You went and got help. And it's improved your life. Fuck yeah, Krobosaur. Like, seriously. You're doing great. Right? Now, let's continue. But I think it's important, first of all, to just recognize that that's hard to do. Right? It's worth the commendation. So let me continue. However, which of course it wouldn't be. Listen, honestly, if you are a person who is suffering from mental health issues and you're seeing improvement and you just want to brag about it, fuck it. Go ahead and fill out the form. Submit the question. Tell me, hey, I used to be having a rough time and now I'm having a better time, because I feel like we kind of need that sometimes too. But for now, let's see if we can help Kroby out. So, however, back on track here. I've made a new friend who I think is confusing my symptoms with autism, ASD, and treats me in a similar manner as their partner who does have ASD during conversations in person and online. My issue is this makes me feel very uncomfortable, as if I'm being patronized. While I appreciate the effort that they take to have clear communication with me, it really makes me feel anxious and uncomfortable. I intend to have a talk with them about it, but before I do, I'd like to probe out if my feelings and my friends are valid and that this conversation would be worth having, or if I'm too prideful or stubborn to accept unprompted help from my friend. I'd love to hear your thoughts and any advice to feel more comfortable with stating boundaries with someone. So, above and beyond my applauding Krobosaur of being capable of going and getting help and seeing improvement, I also want to say good work on recognizing your struggles and being able to communicate those to people, even if they don't really handle them exactly the way that you would hope, right? Being able to say to somebody, hey, so I suffer from anxiety and ADHD, and I've got a couple of other sort of miscellaneous mental health things in my backpack that I'd like to share with you. This is it. This is me, right? You're sharing something delicate, something vulnerable, and I think that's worthy of applause as well, right? I think that this is, Kroby, you're doing great. I think it is reasonable for you to want to be communicated with in a way that doesn't make you feel, how did you put it, anxious and uncomfortable. I think that we can recognize that people are doing their best, they're trying real hard, but that it's not enough. I think that's okay. And I think that there is a way to have this conversation where you can both acknowledge that your friend is trying, but point out that they maybe are doing some things that are causing more harm than good, right? Because maybe they don't recognize that. And again, patterns, right? We've talked about this lots of times. People get into patterns. We get into monogamy patterns. We get into straightness patterns. This isn't just for normative folks. Queer people fall into these patterns as well, right? where we think that the way that we communicate with one person, because we worked hard on it, because we have adapted, right? This person that Kroby is talking about has done work to communicate with their partner. But the problem is that they're retaining that work and they're trying to apply the same protocols to someone else. This would be like me being in a relationship with someone who has a primary partner they're married to, and then them treating me like they do their husband, right? That's not appropriate because I'm a different person. You're a different person, Krobosaur, right? So you deserve to be treated like one. So I think the thing is here is don't second guess your needs, right? Like, yes, as we said before, meditate on them, think on them, journal on them, whatever, talk to your counselor, but don't just let somebody communicate to you in a way that is sucky. And I know that sounds like a truism, but like, if it's not making you happy, and in fact, it's making you the opposite of happy, you should talk to them and you should be clear. But I also think that there are ways to have this conversation, right? So be firm, talk to this person, right? Say to them, I want to talk about the way we communicate because I'm having some trouble with anxiety and discomfort because of the way that you communicate with me, right? Be clear about what it is that makes you feel anxious and uncomfortable, right? Say, I feel patronized when you communicate with me in a way that indicates you think that I cannot pick up on the subtle cues that you are giving me. I understand that that comes from learning a new way of communication because of your partner. And if you want to, if this person is your friend and you care about them and you like them and you want to like bolster their confidence a little, you can say, and I recognize how much work that was for you. But your partner and I, we're different people, and my communication needs are not the same as this person, right? You may not realize you're doing it. That's okay. We're friends. We're working on being better friends. This is part of friendship, is having these harder conversations. And I think it can help coming to the table with suggestions. So some things you might run into is that this person may not realize what they're doing. Hopefully, when you talk to them, they might say, oh shit, I am so sorry. I totally didn't realize. How can I communicate better with you? How can we do a better job of this, right? So that might be the case. There might be an issue where they get defensive, right? Because again, they might be conflating good communication with this person that they are practiced with. And you see this happen over and over and over again with human beings in general, where if you are around a person long enough, it will change the way you talk. It will change the way you interact, not only with them, but with other people, right? I know that the more time that I spend around, I don't know, Nadja, right? The more time Nadja and I spend around each other, the more I have to be aware of my mimicking Nadja's speech patterns. I have to recognize that I do that because the way that Nadja speaks is very infectious, right? She's very charismatic in that way. And I tend to pick up on those things. And I have to be aware, like, oh no, let me adjust my communication style. I have to be aware of it even after a few days, right? So distinctness of communication and being able to communicate in a way that is meaningful for a person, that's a challenge. So this person might get defensive. They might get upset. They might say to you like, no, that doesn't make sense. I learned how to be a good communicator. I'm a good communicator now, and you are receiving this wrong. You're just hearing me wrong. So it's you. You're the one that has the problem. I really hope it doesn't go there, but sometimes this is a thing that happens, right? Sometimes people put in effort and they put in work, and when you tell them the work and effort you put in for your partner, it's just not going to work the same for me. It's hard to hear, and they need to hear that. And so be aware that that might be a thing. And then I think, again, depending on your relationship with this person and how they respond, remember and remind that person that you're doing this not because you're demanding. You're not saying, give me your wallet. You're saying, I want our friendship to be better. I want this. This is work I want to do with you. I want you to do a better job at this so that we can spend more time together and that I can get to know you better and that we feel comfortable. What you are asking for is not of benefit to you. I mean, it is, but it's not exclusively of benefit to you. What you are asking for when you say to somebody, can we work on our communication skills together, is, can we improve our relationship? And if they say no, or they're resistant, do you really want to be friends with someone who doesn't want to do that work with you? I don't think I would, right? It may be that you need to take a step back from the relationship. It may be that they need multiple conversations. Again, you're going to need, Krobzar, my friend, to balance the work that is required to make this relationship feel comfortable and safe for you and the relationship itself. Is it worthwhile? Because not all relationships are worth all of that time and energy. Problem is, you can't often know, you know? I tend to be a person who puts more energy and more self into a relationship than I maybe should. I often get to a point in a relationship where the relationship has ended or a big distance has been introduced. And then I look back at the relationship and I say, I could have seen this coming a year ago, but I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. I tend to also put myself through the ringer for the sake of my relationships even when I shouldn't. And that's me. That's a pattern I have. Everybody's got their own stuff. So Kroby, you need to kind of understand, how much of you are you willing to put in and where do those boundaries exist, right? If they get defensive, is that I'm gonna back off? Or is it I'm going to back off for now? Or is it I'm just going to let them be defensive and wear themselves out, right? Understanding how you have those conversations and what feels safe for you is an important thing for approaching that conversation, approaching that situation. So do that. Work on that. Think about that when you go in. Because ultimately, this conversation is both about you and your needs, but it's also an opportunity for you to see if this person is going to put the work in to make the relationship better. My hope, the hope I have for you, Krobzar, is that this person apologizes. Maybe they didn't realize they were doing it. Whatever, they apologize. They say they're going to do better and they follow up. My hope is that your relationship with them becomes better as a result of this conversation. But we all have to kind of acknowledge that maybe that won't be the case. Ultimately, though, and this is a nice way, I think, to wrap this one up. Ultimately, you've put in the effort, right? You've gotten help. You've seen improvement. And you've been working on the most important relationship. And that's the relationship you have with yourself. So even if this person tends to be a total douchebag and you end up not being friends with them at all ever again, that is a shame, but you're still great and you're still putting in the work for you. And that to me seems like the most important part of this whole thing. So good work, Kroby, and good luck. I hope this person is cool enough to deserve you, you know? As somebody who considers myself a friend of this question asker, of Kroby, I would say that they are very much worth the effort and that anyone who has the opportunity to be friends with them should do so. Our third question is a little long, so if you can't read it on the screen, I'm sorry. I did my best. I will read it for you, but let's talk about perceptions of relationships. Let's talk about disconnection between what we anticipate and maybe what's real. I recently reconnected. So this is actually this is a very ironic question for me. So I prepared this question obviously in advance, right? And it's about reconnecting with an old online friend. And I'll say this, somebody in chat right now today that I am online friends with from a very long time ago and have not spoken to in forever just popped up in chat and said hi. So weird synchronicity between reality and my reality and the asker of this question. Weird. So anyway, let me get into UA's question here. I recently reconnected with an online friend I hadn't talked to in several years. She and I both do fan works, and we happen to be working in the same fandom again, so I decided to reach out. After we were done shouting, "Buddy!" at each other and e-hugging, she sent me an invite to a Discord server for our shared fandom where she was a member. I joined the server and made friends with some other folks in there pretty quickly. It's a great community. However, since I joined, I feel like my friend has grown distant from me, and I worry that it's at least partially my fault. As far as I can tell, I haven't said or done anything friendship demolishing, and she hasn't indicated I'm bothering her. I also know that my joining the Discord community overlapped with her going through a rough patch IRL, so there's that. Still, I've noticed she almost never replies to me directly or even reacts to what I'm saying, whether it's discussions on the server or replies to her on Twitter. At first, I thought that might just be how she is right now, which would be fine, but she reacts to everyone else in a normal way. I feel like she's giving me the cold shoulder, but I can't tell if it's all in my head or not. I'm trying to be a supportive friend and fellow fan work creator. I like and comment on her fics, and I tell her how awesome a writer she is, and she is. And when she gets imposter syndrome, try to support her and so on. These are things she explicitly asks people in her community to do, so it's not like they're unwanted in principle. I don't want to make her uncomfortable, and I'd 100% respect a boundary if she put one up. I also don't want to bother her with what may be a problem that only exists in my head, and because of that, I don't know how to politely ask her if I've done something wrong. I value her friendship. What should I do? Whew. So there's a lot of self-doubt in this question, which I understand. I get, right? Reconnecting with someone, wondering if they are different than you remember, or maybe you screwed up. There's another layer on top of that of like, so like, okay, friend Adam and internet friend Adam are pretty similar, but friend Adam and colleague Adam are very different, right? Like, I am friendly to my colleagues, but I'm not friends with someone in the same way that I'm colleagues with them, right? And we live in a world where it can be easy to conflate those things. So it's possible that this person you are looking at as a friend, they might be seeing you as a fellow creator, right? That this might not be an emotionally intimate reconnection. It might not be a friendship reconnection. It might just be, hey, you and I do the same thing. Let's participate in these spaces together. But then that uncertainty kicks in, right? That fear, that worry that like, did they just invite me because they know we like the same stuff and they don't really want to reconnect? Did I do something? Did I say something? Why are they responding to everyone else and not to me? I thought that they liked me. I thought we were going to be friends. I'm not getting reciprocity where I expect it. So what I think you need to do, and when I say need, I mean, let me rephrase that. What I might do in your position, because I don't want to tell you what to do, because that's not responsible of me and I don't know your whole situation. But what I might do in this situation is, I want to say I would ask. I want to say I would go to this person and say, hey, I'm really excited that we get to be part of the same community again. Your writing has been great. It's been really cool reading it and seeing it. But I'm feeling weird about our relationship. I'm feeling weird about our connection. I'd like us to be able to be like friends. And I kind of felt like that's maybe what we were doing. Am I misunderstanding it? Right? Now, I'd like to say that I would be brave enough to do that, but it might take me some time. I might first spend days or weeks or months maybe wondering, like, did I do something wrong? Did I fuck this up somehow? Did I annoy them? Am I going to make it worse if I ask or talk to them? Like, what do I do? Do I back off? You know what? I should just focus on things I feel comfortable with and forget it. You know what? This was a mistake. I might struggle with that first, like UA is doing. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, finding a way to communicate your uncertainty or your confusion or your upset without making it her responsibility, right? Because there is a way you could absolutely light this thing on fire that you should not do. And that would be going to this person and saying, hey, so when you invited me to the server, I thought it meant that we were going to be friends. And I've messaged you 287 times in the last 2 months, and you've replied only 32 times. And I've liked 480 of your tweets and replied to 216 of your tweets, and you only replied back to me 7 times. And I've noticed that you haven't liked any of my last 18 fics that I made. What do you have to say in response? Their response will probably be to close the metaphorical door in your face and run away. Because that kind of intense pressure can be a lot. Even if it's true, even if you're just stating facts, sometimes people can feel backed into a corner or threatened or accused with these kinds of intense, specific, you have fucked up and I am upset in these ways. Like, that can be very difficult. So what I think maybe a safer approach, or the approach that I might take, would be to tell this person how you feel, right? Just say to this person, hey, I'm really excited that we've had a chance to reconnect, but it would be really nice for me if we could connect like as friends too, not just peers. Like, it'd be really nice to be able to like get to be your friend again, you know? And for me, this is what that might feel like. What do you think? And they might say to you, yeah, that sounds great. I wasn't really sure how to reconnect with you. I wasn't really sure what was appropriate. You know, we had this friendship before. I didn't want to assume. Thank you for telling me what you're interested in. Maybe they'll say that. I hope, you know, I hope that's the thing, right? Because you're acknowledging that you're really happy that you got to reconnect. You're acknowledging that your responses are genuine, that you mean them, and you're expressing a desire. You're saying to this person, I'd like us to be closer. What do you think? But like we said in the second question, and like I'm sure will be repeated many, many times over many more episodes, maybe they're going to get defensive. Maybe she's going to get upset. Maybe she's going to say, I don't know what you expected. We're not friends. We haven't been friends in a long time. I just invited you because you like, I don't know, Bob the Builder fan fiction as much as I do. And I thought you'd appreciate that. I think inviting you to a shared Discord server can be indicative of interest in friendship, but it is not exclusively indicative of friendship, right? And I think that can be a tough line to draw. And the only way to really negotiate that conversation safely is to go in with no expectations, right? Go into the conversation with an open mind. Go into the conversation knowing that however it comes out, it will be different than it was when you started. Go in knowing what your needs are. Go in being comfortable expressing them. And then just do the thing. As somebody who spent a very, very long time in my life just kind of accepting that things are not the way I want them to be, and thinking that that was the way to do it, thinking that it was cool to just be miserable and that it was beneficial to everyone around you that you were miserable and never complained, it doesn't work. It's not helpful. You're just making yourself feel bad. And every time you like one of their tweets or every time you get involved in a discussion that they don't reply to, you're beating yourself up a little bit. You're trying to be positive, you're trying to be a good friend, and you're getting nothing in return. Your emotional needs aren't being met. And in fact, you're expecting them, even on some unconscious level, you're expecting them to be met by somebody who you've never expressed those needs to. And I don't mean that to say that you're wrong or you fucked up. It's just that we do this sometimes where I think, and I'm sure I've said this before, but I think one of the most harmful things that we can teach kids, one of the most harmful kind of relationship tropes is treat others how you would expect to be treated. Because if I treat everyone the way I want to be treated, and then they don't treat me the way I want to be treated because they're treating me how they want to be treated, nobody gets what they want. Right? Nobody. Because maybe what you want is to have a friend who you trust enough to kind of tease you and be mean to you in a safe environment. Maybe that's what you need, right? But treating people in a jokingly mean way might not be what they need. I'm going to use a real life example, okay? So let's talk about my friend Max, okay? Now, Max, I don't know if you're ever going to see this. I love you dearly. You are a close friend of mine. I want nothing but good things in the world for you. And I think you know that. I'm going to use you as an example because I think this is one of those things. So from an outside perspective, it can look like I treat Max like garbage, right? It can look like I am cruel to him, right? I tease him mercilessly, and I say things that if I were saying them to a stranger would get me punched in the face, right? Now, the only reason that Max and I have that relationship is because when I noticed myself starting to do it, I talked to him. I said, Max, in the pre-show for Court of Swords today, I was really giving you a hard time. I was teasing you about the rules and stuff and about D&D. Is that okay? Are you all right with that? I know why I'm doing it, and it's because I have a little brother, and that's how I treat my little brother. I'm treating you like a younger sibling, and for me, that's an expression of affection. I'm doing it because I care about you, and I trust you to know that I'm not serious, right? When I say that, you're handsome and stupid. I mean, I'm serious about the handsome part, but we had a conversation, right? Now, if I had just assumed treating people like garbage in a jokey way means that I care about them, and everybody knows that, and I would want somebody to tease me if we were friends, right? If I never had that conversation, if I just assumed that's how it went, Max would probably think I hate him, right? And everyone else would think I hate him too, because it seems like I'm being a real jerk sometimes. But I have permission to have that relationship with Max, right? Max and I have talked about that before. And it didn't have to be a big, deep conversation, right? I said to him, I was like, hey, Max, I was being kind of mean to you. I did it because that's a way I express affection. I actually think you're really cool, and I'm really glad we get to play together. And Max said to me, oh, yeah, that's fine. Totally fine. And I trust Max to be honest with me, and I'm honest with him. And that's our relationship. And it works better because we had that conversation. Now, UA is treating this person the way that UA would like this person to treat him. UA is being a supportive friend. UA is liking their tweets. UA is getting involved in conversations. UA is trying to be a supportive friend and fellow fan work creator, right? Because that's what UA wants. UA wants this person to do the same. But it might be that this person, that fan work friend, invited UA to the Discord just because they were like, hey, I know you like this thing. Not really interested in being friends. I just wanted to let you know this thing existed, right? There's a big difference between saying, hey, man, Star Trek Picard is coming out tonight. And hey, man, Star Trek Picard is coming out tonight. Do you want to come over to my house, put on our Starfleet uniforms, and watch it together? But we tend to hear things that are different than what people say. UA wants the viewing party. Fan work friend is just happy to let you know show's on, right? So a clarification of intent and desire is what's important here. And I know it's scary, especially when you feel like you're the one that wants things and the other person doesn't. But I mean, you're going to be in this position forever, UA, unless you talk about it. And you're going to feel worse and worse. And eventually you're going to look at all of those likes and all of that support, and you're going to think to yourself, and I say this because I have been this person. I've been UA before. You're going to look at all the good things that you did without being asked to do them, and you're going to feel sad, and you're going to feel resentful, and you're going to feel mad at them maybe because they never reciprocated. They never gave you what you believed that you had agreed to. But if you never have a conversation, if you never say to somebody, hey, I would really like it if, how are they supposed to know? So in a way, this is just normative relationships rearing their stupid head again. This is that, like, I assume you know how to be a good friend because I know how to be a good friend and I'm doing it. And you're choosing not to be the friend that I want. This person is not, I don't think, choosing this. I think they just don't know what you want or need. They don't know what your relationship is about. So reach out. And like UA, now that I've noticed my mysterious internet friend popping up in chat, I'm going to try to reconnect. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to say, hey, it was really cool to see you in chat today. We haven't talked in like fucking 15 years. What's been going on? I'd love to get back in touch. Let's talk. Right? I'm going to try to find a way to do that. I know, UA. I know that it's hard. I know it's scary. It's really scary to admit what you need, but you already did it. And just like Kroby deserves positive reinforcement for going and seeing a counselor, I think you did a hard thing, even anonymously, by coming to me and saying, hey, I'm having a problem and I need some help with it. So I don't know, maybe if you want to, you can just send this episode to that person. If you feel scared and don't feel comfortable saying it, fuck it, you already did it. You asked me and I had some thoughts, so go ahead, pass it along. Or just message them on Discord and say, hey, I've been thinking and it's been really nice being like adjacent to you while you've been working on stuff, but I'd love it if we could reconnect in a more meaningful way. I think, and I shortened UA's name here, the name that UA gave me, and I think this speaks maybe more to the question and more from where this person is coming from. The full name that UA gave me was Unwitting Annoyance. You're being kind, UA. You're trying really hard to be a good person. I don't think you're unwittingly annoying anyone. You just have needs that aren't getting met because maybe you feel like it's an annoyance to ask somebody for what you need, but it's not. So get out there, go and express your needs. Expect nothing from the conversation except that you be allowed to express your needs and leave it at that, right? It will change one way or another. Whether it becomes a burgeoning friendship and you reunite, or whether they say, nope, I just wanted you around as a peer, that's okay too. You'll at least have some answers and you'll be able to move forward. Right now, you're just spinning your wheels, beating yourself up, and that won't do. You deserve better. So I guess, again, good luck. And I believe in you. I think it's possible. And if not this person, you will find someone who wants to express their friendship with you in the way that you want to express friendship with them. Treat people the way they want to be treated and ask people to treat you the way you want to be treated. That's how it works. Get out there and do that. That's it. That's our episode. Thanks for coming, everybody. This has been episode number 43 of Hot for Teacher. Thank you especially to our question askers of today. If you have a question, you can go to www.adam-koebel.com. Click on the Hot for Teacher link. Fill out that form. Let me know what you think we should talk about in a future episode. These episodes they're great. They're really great. I really enjoyed doing them. I hope you like them too. We couldn't do it without your help, without your input. So thank you for being brave, getting out there, asking questions, and letting us discuss these things together. We'll see you next time for more Hot for Teacher.